You know, a little segue yesterday talking about Bryce. You know, so we're questioning the stars in the town.
That was awesome.
Good day. Good day per usual. And we touched on this a little bit. But I want to get back into it because it's frankly, it's too important not to get back into it. Craig Carton was on, obviously, his show yesterday.
By the way,
The Carton Show.
not to interrupt you, I certainly will let you finish. No,
Thank
go
you.
ahead. Go ahead. I'll let you finish first.
Okay. So Craig Carton obviously talking yesterday, and I know the initial shock here is about like, oh, they're going to have to get rid of a prominent player, yada, yada, yada. I had a different feeling today while listening through it again, and here's Craig Carton yesterday in case you missed it.
The biggest question facing the Eagles is what do you know about what happened last season, and why won't you tell us?
I can tell you that it is a problem that would splinter any group of men. Any group of men. It is a real significant problem.
Yeah, I know it is.
It cannot be fixed. I'm not going to say any more than that. But
it's women.
I know what the problem was. I know they're trying to fix it.
Big Tom
and
can't fix it?
I don't think it can be fixed. So it would be very interesting to see if a high-profile player is no longer with the Eagles going into this season. And by the way, maybe he will be. But I'll be interested to see if he is.
A lot of jump to conclusion there with AJ and women and yada, yada,
They left
yada.
a lot to be open here and speculated about.
For sure. But what hits me today while listening to that is, listen, we can question Nick Sirianni. We can talk about whether or not Jalen Hurts is overrated, whatever. We can talk
We'll get to that, too.
And I'm sure we'll get to that, too. We can talk about the talent on this football team. Ike, the thing that worries me more than anything going on with the Eagles is their culture. Because I think that they have a culture problem. And it concerns me more. That concerns me the most with this team. It's not about the players. Well, the players are a part of the culture, but the talent and Jalen and Nick. Ike, what worries me the most is this culture because you can't win. You can't win if a culture is not cohesive and together. And I'm growing more fearful that that's not what's happening here.
Yeah, listen, I completely agree when you talk about the impact of everyone not being on the same page and there being issues inside the locker room or inside the building where it's sort of rotting from the inside to the outside to where we all can see. I don't know how severe that is and to what depth that goes. We obviously saw the way the season ended.
Yep.
And certainly left us all scratching our heads as to, it's one thing to go from 10-1 and you lose to a couple of tough teams in San Francisco, then you go on the road and lose to Dallas. Well, you're 10-3. Why can't you fight your way out of this and figure out a way to come together and win and look more like the team you resembled the first 11 weeks of the season versus what you had saw the last 2 weeks, starting with that Seattle game? So that all had us scratching our heads. And some of the quotes coming out of the locker room from players, stuff that led up to the game, like all that stuff seemed to start to permeate throughout the team. And I don't know if it became a distraction or if it fractured the locker room more and that was the final straw. Whatever it may be, you can easily tell that was happening down the stretch. So I won't sit here and minimize the importance of having a good culture. And I think that is very important to have. If you don't have a good culture like they do in Kansas City, you don't come back from the tough losses they had during the season, tough games, losing to Buffalo. And remember after they lost to Buffalo, everybody was calling Patrick Mahomes a crybaby and a whiner. And people forget, we focus on what happened in the Super Bowl, and that was wrong. When I'm talking about Travis and Big Red, that was completely wrong. Travis was completely out of line. But people forget, I believe it was the Buffalo game, or maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. One of those games, Andy bumped Travis.
Yeah, I think that was it might have been the Buffalo game, but it was at least at some point in December.
Yeah, it was in that late portion when they were struggling. They were losing games.
They lost on Christmas, right? I think it might have been.
I think they did lose.
It might
on
have been
Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah, and they lost to Buffalo. And remember, Patrick Mahomes went up to Josh Allen at the end of the game. It was one of the worst officiated games ever. All that, and he was being called a whiner and a crybaby and a sore loser.
Yeah.
But my only point in saying that is bringing up how things looked bad for them at that time, and they didn't splinter.
Right.
They pulled together. They came together, and they played their best football in the postseason. That's what a good culture will do for you. They got Kadarius Toney off the field.
Yes.
Because he was not good for the culture.
And I know we make fun of the Niners. Mm-hmm. I think they have a good culture.
They bounced back too,
well,
yes.
Dude, they came in here wearing black because they knew it was a funeral. They did the stupid, and I hate it, but it works, is the boombox getting on the field.
That's actually pretty fresh. I kind of like it. I wish I could have did that when I was –
well, that's what you did before you fought Trot. But you had the whole funeral thing, and they lost 3 straight games.
Yeah.
They didn't pull apart, and they believed in each other.
Never point the fingers at each other, none of that stuff.
This is what the Cowboys do.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right.
This is what the Cowboys do.
You're absolutely right.
That's my concern.
And so I say that to say I want to actually – I'm not pushing back against it totally. I'm not, because I think it is important, and I am concerned about it. I am concerned about it. But when you're asking me about the culture versus the talent, I still look at this talent, man, and I'm like, yeah, you can have a good culture, but with these players, I don't know what you were winning anyway. Because some of these players, they were past their prime. Their best football was behind them. And quite frankly, we brought in guys hoping that we could catch lightning in a bottle again like we had done in previous seasons with guys we picked up throughout the season, older guys, established guys, and they've been able to come in and fit into the culture. But more importantly, they were able to at least provide something, right? When we look even at just Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph, adding them last year, Jordan Davis was tailing off at the end of the year. So Fletcher needed a little more help in there with some bigger guys and some guys that could play the run and would be selfless. They were able to do that. They get to the Super Bowl. It's still about talent in the end. And I'm not telling you talent will overcome any cultural or issues inside the locker room. I'm not telling you that. Mm-hmm. But I do tell you this. If you got enough talent, some of these things may not arise. If you got enough talent over there, then maybe guys don't have to answer questions after 2, 3, 4 losses and fingers start being pointed and guys are looking at guys sideways. So I still look at the talent deficiency, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, and I say that, to me, is a slightly bigger issue. They certainly got to get stuff together from a cultural standpoint, resolve this offseason. But, man, I look at the talent on that side of the football, and we're talking about being back in the conference title game and potentially being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. We got to improve the talent on defense.
So you're of the mindset that winning does cure all.
Yeah, I am. I believe that. Now, to this point, unless some other news comes out, and nothing has come out, this is all speculation, but to this point, nothing that serious has occurred, at least to my knowledge, that you can't overcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you can overcome some of this that may be going on. I mean, Craig Carton said a lot of stuff, but he didn't really say much as far as substance as to what the issue was.
Right.
He just said there's an issue there.
Well,
that what did you say? Separates men or men?
It could splinter any group of men.
Any group of men.
Split apart any group of men, whatever.
Let me just say this.
Mm-hmm.
You almost feel like he worded this the way he wanted it to be worded and said it the way he wanted it to be said. And what did you say? Breaking apart men or not bringing men together?
This would splinter apart any group of men.
Yeah, that to me.
And we all know, like, usually what that would refer to.
Right. So is he talking about some sort of what do you call it? Some sort of affair that could be going on that involves two players and somebody else in common.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If I had to guess, it feels like there's
or somebody owes somebody some money.
Well, there's some truth to it, but it feels like that's a bit of an embellished point to go over the top and try to hammer home a point. Like it feels a little bit of an embellishment, but I think there's truth to what he says about there's something going on with the Eagles.
Usually gambling or women normally.
What else would splinter any group of men?
Exactly. Like, yeah, that's usually what it involves. Money or somebody owes you money.
Yeah.
Or somebody.
You can pay someone back money. You can't undo something with women.
Love interest with
something
somebody.
that is not correctable, and you might have to move on from a prominent
somebody
member of the team.
Yes, exactly.
That would suggest something big is going on.
Well, that's the other part right there when he's talking about moving on from somebody. Like that implies something serious is definitely going on that somehow somebody can't come back from.
Well, because it's not like the Eagles.
Or you can't fix.
The Eagles don't have many prominent players. Like
right. Like, yeah, we know the prominent players it could be.
And we know everyone's going to jump to AJ, and they're not trading Jalen. So people are going to jump to their own conclusions. 215-592-9494.
And we're not trading AJ.
And we're not trading, well, yeah.
We're not trading AJ.
Which concerns
not
you?
Not till the story comes out.
Exactly right.
Right. Yeah, and I do reserve the right to change my mind if I find out something that, he has to go.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is just yet.
He's been sleeping over the wrong places.
I just don't know, yes.
Which concerns you more with the Eagles going forward? More culture, or is it the talent on the team? And as one great philosopher once said, culture beats scheme. Do you know who that great philosopher was?
Chip Kelly?
Chip Kelly.
It sounds like something Chip would say.
Culture beats scheme. And what
as he rotted out the culture.
Exactly right. Not exactly the best messenger for that message. But this what frustrates me is that it feels like we just went through this. And this isn't just about Jalen Wentz comparisons, whatever. It's that whole
It's the whole locker room thing, yeah.
It's the whole era. We're getting leaks from everywhere. Yep. The head coach seems like he's having a power struggle or losing power and doesn't want to lose power, whatever. You're bringing in new coordinators. You're firing coordinators. You have questions about the quarterback. Like, it feels like we're right back to that. And I just don't think, like, you can go get talent, but if the culture isn't right, then something is off here. And a part of this, and it's a good question for you, but, when you look at a football team, who really sets the culture on a football team? It's generally the head coach or the quarterback, right?
Yes.
Mostly?
Mostly, depending on his age, depending on the age of the other leaders in the locker room, but it usually is your quarterback.
Well, that's a concern, too. Is Jason, BG, and Fletch going to be here next year? So, like,
doesn't seem like it.
It certainly doesn't seem like it. So you could be losing all of those very, very important pieces to a locker room and be handing it over to new voices.
Yeah.
And when we look at Nick and Jalen, well, if everyone's okay with Jalen just sitting back and leading by example and not being the rah-rah guy, then I guess the culture is set by Nick. But Nick, like, what is a Nick Sirianni culture? Like, I don't know what a Nick Sirianni culture is. So, like, who is the main messenger in that locker? Who's the unifying force in that locker room? Especially if Kelsey's gone, especially if BG's gone, especially if Fletcher's gone. Like, where's that unifying voice? And that's what concerns me. I don't know who the unifying voice is. Is it Nick, who's seemingly from
it has to be Nick?
Has to be, but I don't know if I trust that.